What's going on, everyone? Nick Filato with Big Blue View here to break down some Evan Neal preseason Week 2 tape. Look, there's been some negativity surrounding Evan Neal since the Giants selected him 7th overall in the 2022 NFL Draft. But this guy went out there preseason Week 2 and he performed well. I think he could be a cornerstone on the Giants' offensive line along with Andrew Thomas. There's going to be some bumps similar to Andrew Thomas if we go back to his rookie season. But I think the Giants could have found someone special here. So let's get into the tape. Let's start with the pass blocking plays here from Evan Neal, who is circled to the boundary open side of the formation with the tight end on the other side. Let's watch this play and then break it down. I love the hand fighting here. I love the discipline here. I love the footwork here from Evan Neal, and I love how he finishes this play. Let's go over it. Ready? He quickly gets out of his stance. He covers ground. Watch. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And then 96 goes to initiate contact with that long arm, that stab move, right? And as he's doing that, you can see Evan Neal go to punch. Evan Neal is typically pretty patient with his hands. You can see how he's patient, waiting. He doesn't want to put himself into a disadvantageous situation, so he's waiting for the punch. And once 96 throws that long arm, makes contact with Evan Neal's inside shoulder, it's going to be on Evan Neal to break that contact. Now we can see snatch.
How big is he? He's a big man, that's for sure. Come on, look at the size of this fella. Best your back's a little. Concentrate. You look like a boxer.
Which is an over-the-top downward motion to break the defender's contact and force his momentum forward. Or you can use a forklift technique like you see Evan Neal execute right there. And this is something that Bobby Johnson imparts on his offensive linemen.
You want to look at the hand fighting that the defensive player will do as he tries to get the offensive player's hands off of him. In some instances, they'll just try to tug.
The hand fighting technique is great here from Evan Neal, but I also just love how calm he is. Because at this moment right here, Evan Neal knows he cannot get both of his hands effectively on 96. Okay, because one arm is longer than two arms, and you could see how 96 is tilted right there, in which Evan Neal can't cleanly gain access to his chest. So he knows right here, he's processing that he has to quickly break this contact. And what does he do? He just steps back, and you can see how he has a good build right here. He's balanced a little bit over his toes, but his butt is down, he's sunk down, and then he just takes his hand and he places it right on the elbow, and he lifts up. And look at how he alters 96's pass rush, because 96 is really leaning into this. It's really hard to gain any kind of power against a player like Evan Neal. So 96 is going full force. Look how he's driving off of that foot. He's getting full force into Evan Neal, and Evan Neal just uses his momentum against him and gets underneath him and then just lifts him up. Look, Evan Neal looks like he's picking berries out there right now, man. He doesn't look stressed at all. And then he just finishes, throws him to the ground. You love to see that. And I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here, even though Evan Neal is basically the size of a mountain. This is not LT that he's going up against Wyatt Huber, you know. But still, I like the technique that we're seeing from Evan Neal. I like the fact that he's taking to coaching, and I like the fact that he's making strides. You can even see here, it's similar to the last rep. Explodes out of his stance, keeps his hips disciplined, then starts to open the gate as 96. Wyatt Huber starts to lean into the contact, similar to what we just saw in the last play. And then you could see how Evan Neal puts his hand right in that same spot. He was about to forklift him. Daniel Jones gets rid of the football, and the camera goes off the screen. So I just like how he quickly gets out of this, looks disciplined. And look, he doesn't even make first initial contact. 96 beats him to the point of attack. You can see Evan Neal is a little bit outside, but he doesn't tong, he doesn't hold. He readjusts his hands. It's so tempting for offensive tackles in this position to just kind of grab that shoulder pad, and then it could be on that edge rusher to pull his body in a certain direction to really show, hey, look, I'm being held. But instead, Evan Neal, he goes up with it, and then he goes, okay, I'm going to readjust my hands, drop his weight, sit back on his hips. I'm going to go to that elbow, and then I'm going to lift this pass rusher up, and he does just that. Here the Giants are in an I formation, and we have Evan Neal who comes out of his stance, and look, he's not panicking, he's not oversetting, he's just mirroring Hubert right here. And then there's some really good hand fighting here, and I talked a little bit earlier about Evan Neal's patience with his punch. He's patient, but if he sees a window of opportunity to strike, he will take it like a coiled freaking snake, and you can see it right here. He's patient. 96 exposes his chest as he drops this one hand, goes outside right there, and you can see Evan Neal punch, makes initial contact on that inside shoulder of Hubert, and then Hubert just kind of removes it right there. You see the hand fighting right there? Hubert makes contact with his inside hand to break the contact to Neal. Neal just keeps his feet moving, stays balanced, stays back, and then reattaches and resets. Keeps his butt back, sinks down. anchors down a little bit. Hubert tries to use a little bit of power there. It does not work. And then he works to the half man, and then Evan Neal just uses his length, pushes him out of the pocket right there. Let's go through that one more time. Patient, punch. And then contact gets broken, doesn't panic, sits back on his hips, makes contact again, doesn't like it, then goes for the forklift once again, and then once Hubert goes to the half man, Evan Neal just pushes him out of the pocket. Just in terms of hand fighting, Neal is prompt and attentive on when to strike and punish defenders with his hands, while square typically. And this is something that was evident throughout his Alabama film. His ability to vary his punch timing keeps defenders guessing, which optimizes basically every single play. And we know Evan Neal has some issues with balance and bringing his feet underneath him when he is moving. He leans a little bit too much. But in terms of being square like he is here, he's pretty damn good with hand fighting. So let's see what happens on this specific rep. Explodes out of his stance, meets the pass rusher up the arc. And you can see right here, the pass rusher goes to swat this outside arm. You can see how Evan Neal presents this outside arm. Presents it like he's going to punch. The pass rusher goes to swat it. He misses, and then Evan Neal strikes. Makes direct contact, low butt, nice firm base, and he's trying to engage a lot of his power through this pass rusher. And this pass rusher does a good job bringing his inside arm down with this chop. Chops that outside arm. Now you can see Evan Neal's balance comes forward a little bit. His feet are a little close together as he's moving up the pass rushing arc, but he just recollects himself, right? Mirrors, then makes contact with that inside arm as the pass rusher is going to engage in a power rushing move, a bull rush. And then Evan Neal just sits back. You can see how he sits back, re-engages himself, nice forward lean, but low, anchors down. Pass rusher has nowhere to go, and by that point, Glowinski's over there to help, looking for work. Here we're going to see a play fake, split flow action with Daniel Bellinger coming across the formation, and we just see Evan Neal against this defensive lineman, and Evan Neal has his hands fit inside, and there's really nothing the defensive lineman can do at this point. Let's watch. You can see the defensive lineman is aligned right here, and has a 3 technique on the outside shoulder of Mark Lewinsky, and Evan Neal is going to go along with the play fake, block down, right? Like he's going to reach him, I guess I should say. Gets that hand right there, right on the breastplate, and at this point, Evan Neal realizes, the defensive lineman realizes it was a play fake the whole time, so he has to handle that little, I guess you can call it nifty spin for a heavy man, and Neal just mirrors him, keeps in front of him, doesn't give him any kind of leeway whatsoever. Now, this guy is not the most agile defensive lineman whatsoever, right? But Evan Neal does not surrender any power. You can't bull rush Evan Neal. It's very hard. He's a stone wall out there in terms of his ability to anchor down against power moves. So I thought that was an interesting play that I wanted to briefly go over. Now we have Evan Neal right here on the outside. And you can see right there how Evan Neal kind of loses initially with the hand fighting. Watch. This pass rusher acts like this is going to be a stun. You can see how Evan Neal goes into his pass set right here, and then he puts a lot of weight right there on that outside foot, right? Because this pass rusher is angling inside. So Evan Neal is suspecting either he's going to go through his inside shoulder into the B gap, or there's going to be some sort of twist coming in this direction. But that's not exactly what happened. So Evan Neal goes to punch, and this is a nice little crafty move from this pass rusher, because he's trying to win outside here. So Evan Neal goes to punch with that outside hand, and then this pass rusher makes contact with the outside arm right there. Now Evan Neal is not in the best position. Good on this pass rusher to bring his inside arm to chop. Nice little combination of moves right there. But Evan Neal recovers. He rebounds right here, right? Like Dennis Rodman. Gets both of his hands on this pass rusher after losing the hand fighting battle, I guess you could say. But how he recollects so quickly to just get his hands right where they need to be. And look, there's a path here where this pass rusher can win, right? Evan Neal is not in a great position. But Evan Neal just uses his length, keeps his feet moving, and meets the pass rusher enough to where the pass rusher does not believe he can get around the edge and crash into the pocket with Tyrod Taylor inside of this pocket. And Evan Neal, look, he's crossing over right there. That's not great. But even when Evan Neal loses, Evan Neal has enough length and athletic ability to not make it hinder the offense. This is something you saw at the University of Alabama, and you can even argue right here as well. He's not in a great position, but he's so damn long and he's so damn athletic, and he can get his hips flipped so quickly that he can just throw pass rushers up the pass rushing arc and around the quarterback, allowing the quarterback to step up into the pocket and deliver football. And that's something that you love about Evan Neal. And it's not something that every offensive tackle possesses. He's uniquely long and he's uniquely athletic. And I also just love, even though he loses the hand fighting battle here, how he quickly gets his hands reestablished and puts himself in a position to not give up a sack. Here are 2 plays of Evan Neal handling a twist right here on the right side. You can see. Let's go through this first one real quick. It's just simple. I love how he stays low, collected, hands ready to pounce like a featherweight as he moves back here. Look at him. Just looking. First, you can see him peep this linebacker. His eyes flash to the linebacker at the snap because he has this 3 technique right here. It's going to be Glowinski's responsibility. So at the snap, you have to pay attention to this edge rusher. The 85 is still there, so he's going to chip and he's going to release. But you have to see if any of these other guys are going to blitz, because if this defensive back over here blitzes, 85 is going to kick over there and handle it. So Evan Neal's going to have to take care of this individual right here. So Evan Neal flashes his eyes at 44, sees he is not coming. Look at that. Low and collected. Hands ready to go. And then he sees that it's going to be a twist. And he's selling upfield, explodes off that outside foot. Then Evan Neal's eyes flash right to where Mark Lewinsky's guy is, and he handles that twist. You have 3 guys over here, 4-man type of pass rush. Easy peasy for Evan Neal. And you'll see the mental aspect of it right here as well. Evan Neal in his stance. Now watch, 96 could come. You have Daniel Bellinger here to help you, and then you have a 3 technique. Now, 41 could be coming on the blitz. 44 could be coming on the blitz. Let's see how Evan Neal handles this. 96 expands outward. So Evan Neal flashes his eyes to 41. 41 is not coming. So then Evan Neal looks at 44. He goes to attack, but Antonio Williams steps up right there. So now he knows that 44 is handled. 47 is coming in, but he knows that Daniel Bellinger was chip and release. So he remembered that 96 took that wide angle and that Bellinger was going to release into a route. He goes and he takes that edge rusher. By this point, Daniel Jones is releasing the football, right? And Glowinski, I just want to acknowledge that too. Glowinski notices this, flashes his eyes on 47, who's twisting around the blitzing linebacker at 95, discards, picks up. Glowinski's just going to be a good football player for the New York Giants. Such an upgrade over anything the New York Giants have had at guard for a while on the right side. Now, you can also argue, and I wonder, and I don't know the rules built into the protection package, that Evan Neal should have realized that 47 was coming. He could have took him, so Glowinski didn't have to shed. I'm not 100% certain of all that, right? Theoretically, it makes a lot of damn sense. But you know Evan Neal is processing and thinking at this point. I know that edge rusher is unblocked right now because Bellinger, and I'm not sure if he has the angle on Bellinger right here, because there is nobody to take 96 since Antonio Williams stepped up. So nobody's protecting Daniel Jones on this side. So he realizes this when the bullets are flying, comes off, and then goes to pick him up. He might have messed up his assignment there. Not 100% certain. He might not have. But at the same time, you know he's thinking here. You know there's a lot going through his brain. You know he can react. And I love that aspect of Evan Neal, who, by all accounts, is incredibly conscientious. All right, now we're going to watch some Evan Neal run blocking plays. Now, this ends up being a pass because it's an RPO. Giants ran a lot of RPO, specifically on that 3rd drive. Right here, Tyrod Taylor made a big mistake. He should have handed this football off. It seems like nobody was open, and you could see the blocks that the Giants had up front. You had 2 double teams, right? You want to establish double teams, especially when you're running inside zone duo type of blocking schemes, right? So you have this 2-eye technique and then the 3 technique right here. You're going to have a double team right here and then a double team right there. Then you can have Devery Hamilton take the edge. You climb up to both of these linebackers and you get some push vertically off the line of scrimmage. That's exactly what you have here. Tyrod Taylor goes into this mesh point. Look at these 2 double teams. But let's focus on Evan Neal. Love the double team between Mark Lewinsky and Evan Neal. Get hip to hip, foot to foot, drive off the line of scrimmage, and whoever has the best established position on the defensive lineman stays. Whoever has the best angle up to the linebacker climbs, and that's obviously Glowinski here. And watch how Evan Neal just keeps his feet driving and just drives that dude off the line of scrimmage. And Evan Neal has this ability, man. He can unlock so much power through his feet, through the ground, through his hips, and then into whoever the poor bastard is that he's blocking. Here we're going to see a counter play, and we're going to see another double team. We have Evan Neal right here with Mark Lewinsky, and they're going to double team the 4-eye. They're going to allow this edge rusher, the end man on the line of scrimmage, to come up and get kicked out by the backside guard. And then you have the sniffer coming to lead block. This was a play that was run pretty extensively back in 2020 by Jason Garrett and Joe Judge. Let's watch that double team. Boom. Hip to hip. right there. Love to see it. 68 is trying to anchor down right there. And then you can see Hamilton come in, take the end man on the line of scrimmage, who does a pretty good job keeping this Russian lane narrow. And now you have Daniel Bellinger, the sniffer, the H-back, the tight end, whatever you want to call him, to lead block for Antonio Williams. Williams does a pretty damn good job avoiding traffic, jumping over a bunch of legs. Gets tripped up a little bit, but he's a physical-ass running back, and he runs through a bunch of different arm tackles right there. A bunch of different, just trash, really. Evan Neal kind of slides off this block, but you love to see this part. That double team be formed. 44 does a really good job scraping over the top. And just to get into a little nuance here, 44, now he could try to fill right here, but he realizes that 64 has outside leverage looking to climb right here. So 164, Mark Lewinsky climbs right there. 44 just positions himself outside. 59, the linebacker, Keem Davis-Gaither, kind of comes in and goes into that position. So now you have outside contained right there, and you have the guard climbed up to the second level who's going to have to quickly locate 59. So there's a lot of Bengal bodies in this area, and Evan Neal ends up falling off this block a little bit, but I do believe he does a pretty damn good job just to start this rep off right here with Mark Lewinsky, but it wasn't the best finish by the duo. Through the first two preseason games, the Giants have been pretty successful running weak side. They seems like it's going to be something they're going to do throughout the season, especially when you have big Evan Neal as your right tackle. You can see he's to the open side of the formation with the tight end over here to the field side, and this is a weak side boundary run. So the pivotal block here is Evan Neal on number 90, who is outside of him, outside of the 5 technique position. So Evan Neal's going to have to create a seal on 90 and not allow him to set the edge. You can see here he goes into contact, and you can see 90 set this edge, but he leans inside, probably because of the power that Evan Neal has. Like he's trying to go through the B gap or something like that, and that just gives Evan Neal the opportunity to bring his feet. It's kind of hard to see. He swivels his feet. You see that? Steps on this foot, his inside foot, and then just swivels his hips around to bring that outside foot to basically become square to 90. And at this point, he has his hands inside, probably has a good bit of cloth, but he's not outside the edge rusher's frame, so he's able to really just fit his hands inside, hold them long enough for Deshaun Corbin to just get outside like he does right there. That is a nice block from Evan Neal. Now let's watch the Charles Barkley block. Right here, Evan Neal, you can see, kind of hooks that arm, and then he boxes him out. All right, let's go over the play real quick, though, all right? Because this is a pin-pull concept, so essentially you're going to have Evan Neal pin down the 2-eye technique, and the Giants are going to pull Mark Lewinsky and the center around to lead block for Deshaun Corbin. And as he pins down, you can see 95 does a good job landing that outside arm on the outside shoulder of Evan Neal, and then he turns Evan Neal a little bit, so Evan Neal just brings his inside arm underneath and holds the armpit, essentially, underneath the outside arm of the defender. And at this point, Evan Neal just extemporizes a little bit. And this is a technique I saw Charles Cross use so much at Mississippi State. And he just boxed the defender out. Look, you could argue that that is a hold right there because he's chicken winging the arm. But other than that, man, this is legal. He's just using positive body positioning to create an alley right here. And Corbin finds the crease. You'd love to see that right there. And again, with the pin pull, and man on the line of scrimmage is not blocked. You're going to climb the tight end up to 44, the linebacker. So you kick out 96 right there with Mark Lewinsky, and then you have a lead blocker with the center. And Evan Neal is boxing out this player. Deshaun Corbin does a good job finding the crease, picking up some hard-earned yardage. Alrighty, Evan Neal, we're going to go over a couple negative plays, I guess you could say. You could argue, yes, this is going to be a negative play here, but I would like to say that there's no one coming on the blitz, and you have a 2-eye technique with a center who has no one in his A gap on the opposite side of Evan Neal. Evan Neal, you could argue, is aware that he's going to have probably some inside help from Mark Lewinsky, but still, even with that said, he gets a little bit too far up the pass rushing arc here. 96 hits him with an inside club, goes inside, and Evan Neal gets turned around. Don't love to see this right here. But like I said, if he's going to overset in one direction, it's better to do it in the direction that he did because he knows he has Mark Lewinsky more than likely who is going to be looking for work at this point because nobody blitzed. Now, was all that considered throughout the entirety of this play? I'm not sure. But you can see right here he gets turned around, and that's not great. He gets clubbed. 96 does a good job shooting right inside and going through the B gap. Neal gets turned around. Lewinsky comes up, picks up on Evan Neal's mistake. Now here we're going to see Evan Neal right here again. And this is the pressure that he surrendered in this game. I believe he has 2 pressures in both of the preseason games collectively, so a pressure in each game. Let's go over this play. So he is on that open side again to the boundary. Doing a good job, patience, and then right as the defensive lineman goes and punches, he goes over the top and makes contact with the upfield shoulder. But he doesn't bring his feet with him, and this is an issue that a lot of people have pointed to with Evan Neal, and it's something that you see on his tape. He doesn't consistently bring his feet with him, and that leads to balance issues. And this happens in the run game. It happened a lot in the run game during college, right? You can lean into contact, but you're not going to unlock all your power unless you bring your feet into you, and when you lean a lot, then you're going to have balance issues, and that's the simplest way to put some of Evan Neal's biggest deficiencies is with balance, and it all stems from him just not bringing his feet. And right here you could see it too. His feet get kind of caught behind as he's leaning at the waist. Like, look, his butt is low, but he's leaning instead of kicking those feet up to match this defensive lineman like we've seen throughout this video, right? So this defensive lineman, this edge rusher, is able to disallow Evan Neal from getting clean contact. He kind of does here, but then as Evan Neal's trying to grab cloth with that outside arm, you can see the pass rusher uses inside arm to knock the inside shoulder of Evan Neal, which forces Evan Neal's balance a little bit off kilter, and then that allows the edge rusher to create a little bit of separation. You can see separation right here. Evan Neal, his feet are kind of stuck in the mud. His hips are not matching the hips of this pass rusher, and this pass rusher, all he has to do is bring this inside arm underneath the outside arm of Evan Neal, and now he successfully lands a rip move. And Evan Neal's not in a great spot because this edge rusher is hip to hip and he's swiveling into the pocket. He's cornering. And Evan Neal, man, he's athletic enough to get those hips turned and try to shove him out of the pocket. But Tyrod Taylor almost gets sacked here. Like, that knee might be down right there and it might not have even been called. And if it wasn't good on Tyrod Taylor for staying up right there, not a pretty rep from Evan Neal getting beat around his edge right there. And then Richie James drops his football. And now we have Evan Neal right here. This one, he just kind of slides off the block. This is a run block that wasn't great. You can see how he's leaning into the contact right here. But look, he has that foot firmly planted in the ground. And you can see how he goes to drive through, but he's not cleanly framed up on this player. He's kind of got a half-man relationship with him, but this defensive lineman is able to get both of his feet outside of the engagement and just slip around the block. He shows good bend in doing so. And then Evan Neal slides off. And Antonio Williams does a good job of realizing that this is going on, and he cuts back and around. Antonio Williams has really impressed me throughout the preseason. But that's another negative play from Evan Neal. Again, not the end of the world, but these balance issues, these chest well in front of the feet type of issues that we've seen dating back to his college days are persisting in preseason. But I think they are rectifiable. And I do believe in the skill set, athletic ability, length, and work ethic of a player like Evan Neal, and I think he has a bright future here in New York. And there are some clips of Evan Neal from the Cincinnati Bengals preseason Week 2 win by the New York Football Giants. I hope you guys enjoyed this look. Evan Neal, I remain very high on Evan Neal. He was my number 1 ranked tackle coming out of this draft class, and I feel comfortable with that. But that doesn't mean he is a perfect prospect, and some of the issues that we're seeing in preseason, we saw when he was at the University of Alabama. But you can't teach length, you can't teach athletic ability, and I think he's very good in the trenches, hand fighting. I think he has a very high ceiling, I think he has a high floor, and I think he's going to be a mainstay on the Giants offensive line for years to come, along with Andrew Thomas, forming one of the best young tackle duos in the National Football League. I am Nick Filato. Thank you so much for tuning in to this YouTube video. Please subscribe. Check out our podcast at Big Blue View Radio, and please head on over to bigblueview.com and check out all of our written content. Take care of each other and have a lovely day.